We're back, and we are painting this iris for an intermediate watercolor class that I'll be teaching. And these are the colors that we are using. If I were not using a limited palette, I would use this color by Winsor Newton called Smalt, which is a nice purpley blue. But we will make our own with quinacridone rose and ultramarine blue. This is the background, which I explained in an earlier video. We'll also be using burnt sienna. There's a little bit of burnt sienna in here. There's new gamboge in here. There's actually lemon yellow in a few places in here. And the leaf green that is in here we'll make with phthalo blue and lemon yellow. And we'll use the burnt sienna in the stem down here some as well. So those are the colors we'll be using. Those are all in our beginner's palette. So everyone should have those colors. And I have masked out the areas that I want to save here. I think I might actually take this out. I don't think we need this masking right here. So it's this easy to remove something. If you put masking in a place that you've changed your mind and you don't want to have it there, that's all you have to do. Get our masking fluid back. Corrections are easy to make if you stop and make them. You run into problems when you don't correct something and then you try to correct it later. So this is a confusing situation right here. So there's really not that much masking fluid here. It's catching on the old masking fluid. So I'm just going to put that in there. And we'll put another one right here. Just like that. That was that simple. I think I might, while I'm here, go ahead and add some more down here. Little dots here and there. All right, we're gonna let that dry. While that's drying, we'll go work some of these other areas. So, I'm going to start with these lighter petals, and I'm going to use the quinacridone rose, which will be our cool red in our palette. Now if I were using colors off my palette, I would be using a color called lilac. So now if I want to go in and get this a little more of this purple as I come down, and I just left a little edge there. And this is just the first pass. So this is like an underpainting. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop that pink in, and I'm gonna come back to the top of it. Let's come in with some straight ultramarine blue there. Make this not such a straight line. Just sweeping that out toward the upper edge here. And if you get too much, all you have to do is to blot it off. and that keeps it very soft. And we'll go in later with some more straight blue in there. And we layer that. And if you're making an edge, be sure that you're on the point of your brush. If I'm painting with the belly of the brush, I cannot get down into these fine areas. So always be sure that you're painting with the edge of the very tip of your brush. Okay, so that's that. Now we're going right in next door with this, because we want a nice soft transition between these edges. So this is straight cobalt, this is straight ultramarine blue. And that'll get brighter as we build it. And so we ended up with a soft edge right there. Now here we have more of a violet, a blue violet, so we need more blue. So we're making this a blue violet along this edge. And it's not so critical to match these colors perfectly as it is to get a nice transition here. I'm seeing this is very blue right here. And then we go more into the violet here. And let these colors charge right into each other. Here. Staying away from this little area right here. Softening these edges. Painting right over the masking fluid. So all I'm doing is taking and making variations in these colors. A little more violet, a little more blue, and trying to match the colors that I see. This is your straight ultramarine blue, which you can see right here. This is your straight quinacridone rose. And if you add just the tiniest bit of blue into that, you get a color that's little. Actually, I think we will try something different here. This is Phthalo Blue, and that should give us a more vivid when we mix that with our quinacridone magenta. Excuse me. So when we mix our Phthalo Blue, much better. All right, so we're going to change to Phthalo Blue for these beautiful violet-y colors. We're going to mix that with the quinacridone pink and see if we don't get a nicer violet, because I'm not liking this pinky color we're getting here. Sometimes you just have to play with your colors until you get what you want. So see, that's very much too red on the red side. So let's add a little more Phthalo Blue. Much better. Much better. That's a nice violet right there. So now let's take our pink, see if we can get just a slight violet mixture, and that's a better color. So if we wash that way out, that might work better for us. Let's add a little more phthalo blue here. See if we can get a bluey or purple. This is just a big plate that I mix in sometimes. That's way too blue. So I'll add some more pink. See if we can get, we're getting a gorgeous, gorgeous violet there. You can see that. But in order to get that blue that we see in here, we're going to have to go back in with the ultramarine. So we're going to end up using both of our blues. As you can see, we're getting a much bluer blue violet with the ultramarine than we've got with the phthalo, if you can see that. Okay, so we're going to start laying those in. Well, let's see what we get with that. All right. So up here, where we've got this soft violet, we're going to mix. And you just have to mix these colors until you get what you want. And the best way to have these colors blend nicely is to go ahead and wet your petal, the petal you're working on. And I'm just wetting it with this light mixture here. They just happen to be on my brush. And then I'll go in and put in some of the darker passages and just let those all flow together. Always working in the shape, the direction the petals are growing. Drop in some more purplier colors here. There. And because you're using a limited palette, you may not be able to get the precise colors that you're seeing in your reference photo, especially when it comes to violets. They're very difficult to match. I have special colors on my palette specifically for that purpose, because I do paint a lot of botanicals. But as you can see, getting these kind of, these are opaque colors, and they're very difficult to get with a limited palette. So that's why I suggest that you do try different colors on your palette, and that you do experiment and find other colors that work better in some of these situations. Like this color right here, I know that I could get that color with a color called Mineral Violet. But because we're using a limited palette, we may not be able to get that color.